A person can be a victim without feeling like a victim. And a person can feel like a victim when they're actually not. There's a distinction between being a victim and feeling like a victim. We assume that when we're feeling like a victim, we automatically are in a situation of it. But the truth is that unfair treatment can live at literally any stage. You can have a hero complex, you can have a victim complex, and you can have a villain complex. The challenge, of course, is that if you have assigned to yourself the victim role, then not only are you looking for a villain to place blame on, whether or not there actually is a villain, you're also looking for a hero to save you.
Hey, welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joe Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
So at the time of this recording, it's the holidays. So Antonia,
it's the holidays.
Antonia has a glass of wine here.
Cheers.
On set.
That's
Cheers.
Right. Because if it's the holidays and I got to record podcasts, I might as well,
This is like...
throw a little back.
Recording a podcast with half your brain tied behind your back. Is that right?
Yeah. I'll probably be more interesting, actually.
I'll be down to earth more, quite frankly. Actually, speaking of that, the holidays, that's what I want to start off today with a story about the holidays.
Yeah.
So it was many years ago, a long time ago, at a long away.
In a galaxy far, far away?
I don't know if Baltimore City is considered a galaxy far, far away, but
I think it might be, actually.
I'm in Baltimore City, and it's a few days before Christmas. And my ex-wife and I had been separated for several months. And, it's kind of this, are we going to get back together? Are we going to be separated for good? She moves out of the apartment. She moves back in with her parents. And we have two young boys. Yeah. As a couple. Well, my son Gunner's 4 and my youngest is Sawyer is 2. 2,
that's right. Well, I think we'd met, so I think the idea of the two of you getting back together was becoming a bit of a distant thought.
It was coming to a head, right?
It was coming to a head. Everything's coming to a head.
This looks like we're not going to be getting back together.
Correct. Right? And you'd been separated for a while.
At least 2 years. I was available in case I felt like my religious background said that I'm not allowed to move on until she decides to move on. I had to sit and just wait.
And she'd been serving you with divorce papers.
So I figured this is probably, it's come down to the wire, whatever.
That's right.
The point is I have my oldest, both sons actually. I take them to, I think like Chick-fil-A or something for like just a meal because I got them on, and there's this tension with me and my ex-wife, but also my in-laws, right? So I'm supposed to return my son back to my in-laws' house while my ex-wife is at work, and I'm going to like basically drop him off.
Do a handoff.
They're going to be there for Christmas for a few days, whatever. Anyway, he gets really sick. I think he caught like a stomach virus or something. And so he's like ill, and he starts being sick in my car on the way back. So he's like very violently ill. And so he's making a mess. It's like a really big deal. Like, violent stomach issues at 4 years old, you don't really have a lot of bodily control. So it's like, I'm already, and I hate getting sick like this. I'm very stressed. So I just take him and I just pick him up and I'm carrying him into my in-laws' house. That's where I'm supposed to deposit him. And I lay him on the couch and he's very ill. And all of a sudden my ex-wife's at work, my ex-mother-in-law gets a call from my ex-wife. They find out that I'm there and she's like, get him out of the house now. And so my in-laws basically have to take my key and kick me out of the house while my son's ill. And they're like, you got to get out of here. I'm like, what? I'm like, why do I have to do this? They're like, because we're not, basically you're not getting along with our daughter anymore. And it's like, it's not going to end up that you guys are together. So get out kind of thing. And I was a little shocked by this because I'd never been treated this way by anybody before. Like the level of like cutoff. Yeah. All of a sudden it was just, I didn't grow up in a family like this. And like even my ex-mother-in-law, like one time I apologized to her and I asked her for forgiveness and she said no. And I feel like the first time I'd ever had that experience before, I was like, wow, really? Okay. Well, like, no, you don't get forgiveness. I'm like, okay.
Being canceled by anybody, which I think is like the best word for it, it's a jarring experience to go from having a relationship with somebody one day and then the next day you're just like, you're dead to them.
Yeah. So it was weird, abrupt. I'd never experienced this before. So I'm like, and it's like 3 days before Christmas. Yeah. So I'm just kind of having a tough time. And
you're concerned for your son who's he's violently ill.
So I went ahead. I left graciously. I didn't fight it. I just left. I gave him the key back. So I think that might have been the last time I ever stepped foot in that house a long time ago. And I drove back. I think I was staying at, another friend was out of town or something at the time. And cause I was starting to kind of close up shop, but I went back and stayed at like an apartment somewhere. I got sick that night or the next day. So I'm sick. And then Christmas is rolling around. And I remember just feeling like really, the word would be victim-y. I remember feeling like I was at the effect of the world everyone's against me. My plan was to spend Christmas going over to their house, my in-laws' house, and spend some time with my boys. But then I was disinvited for some reason all of a sudden as well.
Yeah.
Like, because things were kind of coming to a head. And so here I am in a city that's not my city. I didn't grow up here. I had already started to make motions to leave town and stuff. So I'd gotten rid of my apartment there. So I'm staying at a friend's place. Nobody around that I know. My whole family's like 3 or 4 hours away. It's Christmas Day. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is awful, man. Like, I feel so victimized.
Yeah.
I remember I had to go to like a PF Chang's. It was the only place open
for Christmas
dinner. Like, I just like eating a PF Chang's, like watching like football or basketball or something on the TV. And there's like 5 other sad people in there eating Chinese food on Christmas Day. We're all like looking at each other with our wonton soup or whatever.
Right.
And man, that was like, I still think about that. That was a tough holiday for me.
Yeah. Well, and we'd met and we were kind of together, but kind of not, because you were still sort of figuring the situation out.
You're living in Las Vegas at the time.
And I was living in Vegas.
So I call you and I'm like, listen, I think I've got an idea. I'm going to go get a little Christmas tree that I had at the place I was staying. I'm going to go in front of the house where my boys are, because they'll be having Christmas there. And I'll just sit outside on the sidewalk with my little Christmas tree and just in protest. Just I'm a victim and I'm just going to sit there in a protest and show. It'll be like this like performative like demonstration of how mistreated I am, right?
Yes.
This will like show everybody, and my boys will see me out there like, why is Dad out on the sidewalk? And they'll have to
Christmas tree,
and they'll have to explain it to them, and then that'll like open up. Maybe they'll have to invite me in. Like the boys will want to see me, and they'll be right there, and so they'll be obligated to invite me in or whatever.
Right.
And you're like, that's a terrible idea, Joel. Like, really? I think it's a really good idea. But it was a terrible idea. I think that would have been a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
But I can just remember how at the mercy of other people I felt. Like, at how much I felt helpless. I mean, the emotions were helplessness.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was suffering. I felt like injustice was being done to me.
Yeah.
And people didn't understand, and they applied misintent toward me, like bad intent, like I was trying to do something bad or harm someone. I can remember feeling these things. I mean, I can connect to them now. It's like, it almost makes me want to cry how tough it felt to be in that position, and just, you can't do anything about it. Somebody's pulling rank on you. They're doing a power play on you that you just can't get out of.
Yeah.
And so today I thought we could talk a little bit about victimhood. And when we find ourselves in those places, how do we think about that? How do we deal with something? Because I'm sure maybe you listening right now or watching have had moments in your life where you felt completely at the mercy of someone or something else. You couldn't do anything around. Maybe it's an illness you had, maybe a severe illness, maybe it's a person mistreating you. The worst are when I think people mistreat you. When circumstances happen, we can feel victimized there.
Yeah.
But it feels like, okay, that was like God or the universe. It just like nobody was at fault for that. But when it's another person, like kicks you out of their house or blocks you or won't let you connect with them or even explain yourself or be understood.
Yeah.
I think it's really painful for us. So if you could leave in the comments, if you're watching or listening, have you had one of these situations in your life where you felt really cut away, pushed out? You felt like you were on the victim side of something, like somebody really mistreated you or blocked you, and you just felt like you just didn't know what to do. You felt so helpless in that state. I would love to hear if you had a moment like that, like me. I think we've all had something like this. I think that'd be a really interesting discussion to start off this episode with. Yeah. And then we could ask for more feedback as we unpack some of these things. So, fast forward to now, I barely even think about that situation unless I really connect to it, like in a show like this.
Well, at the time of this recording, it would have been basically 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's
like
a long
as
time
of this
ago.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Decade and a half of life has been lived between then and now.
So time heals things a little bit, and you don't feel as, and I would have a much different approach to it now, I think.
I was going to say, you said, I almost want to cry when I think about it, but is it because you have unprocessed grief from that time period, or is it because you're sad for younger, early 30-something Joel, or what do you think it still kind of chokes you up?
It's probably more connected to my boys, because there's like little moments. I've never really shared my story, but there's like little moments throughout my experience after that, like just in a few months after that.
Yeah.
I mean, another victim moment for me was I had scheduled, like we didn't have an agreement still with the courts. Like nothing was formalized because it was, it's this like in between space. So we're supposed to go and do something formally. I'm trying to get another business started because like my life is feeling like it's falling apart because my family's breaking apart. So I'm trying to do something else. But so I come out to Vegas to be with you as this is all breaking down.
Right.
Like,
As the divorce is happening.
Yeah. And so we hadn't been together for like almost 3 years.
We just met basically.
No, you and me just met, but I'm talking about my ex-wife and I hadn't actually been together for a long time.
Right.
We'd been living separately. Like it was the formal paperwork, but I was still invited over to my in-laws' house. I was still able to come and see my boys. Like, but it started getting really tense at that moment.
Right.
Like, and things started getting cut away.
Well, and there's like
it was like a defensiveness of the family. They were like positioning themselves against me in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you can feel that brewing on the horizon.
Certain families feel like they have to side.
They circle the wagons.
And they circle the wagons. That's right. And so when it was like very clear that like she was not going to be, she was not going to reconcile.
She made her decision basically.
That's right.
And so I was like, okay. And that's when we met after that. And
that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff in there.
Lots of stuff in there. But the point is that the family started to circle the wagon and now you're on the outs.
So paperwork's being filed, but we haven't been in the court yet. So I just, as a handshake agreement, we're like, hey, can I see the boys this time or this time? And I'm trying to get some space from there's a lot of toxicity here. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of my story that I'm not going to really share right now.
Yeah.
But it's not just getting cut away from Christmas. Like my ex-wife and I had a lot of issues and I felt and
there's a lot of blocking away from your sons. Yeah.
A lot of blocking away from my son. So I remember flying with an agreement on an airplane from the West Coast to Baltimore. And while I'm in the air, I think I had like Wi-Fi on the thing or I downloaded my messages and I'm seeing in the air that she's like, and by the way, you're not going to see the boys this weekend when you show up. Like, I'm not going to, they have some baseball game or something. You're not going to be able to see them. And I just remember feeling like, what? I'm like flying with this agreement in place that I'm going to, like a handshake agreement. There's nothing I can enforce, but now you're just going to remove that while I'm en route to come to see them.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. Like it was really challenging. And so like it was, so that's where, so I missed, so that example, like first day of school, I missed their first day of school.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't alerted to it and I wasn't communicated.
Well,
and
you were blocked.
She blocked and pulled it.
Yeah.
So like, so when I say I was ready to cry, that was a long way of saying it was because I think there were these moments I wanted to be present with my sons.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't able to be, which is sad. Now I'm able to be in their lives now, which is great. And I think we have a pretty good relationship, all three of us.
Well, the older one is definitely a lot more attuned to you at this point.
Yeah, he was just here a few minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly.
We hung out, and I know Sawyer, he still lives with his mom mostly, but we hang out all the time. Like I just saw a movie with him last weekend or a couple weekends ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, point being is, that was where the tears were coming from. I don't think I connect to them for myself. They're mostly for my sons than maybe so the unprocessed emotions probably are with them, not with my ex-wife.
Right. Or that situation.
It's mostly with what I missed in their lives.
Well, and what's interesting, I mean, of course, the sad thing is that there are so many women who wish that men would be fathers, right? They would like, even if they've separated, there are so many women who would just be like overjoyed if the father of their children would show interest in their children. And then you were like doing everything you could to spend as much time with your boys as humanly possible. And in that particular situation, you were like perpetually blocked. So it's like, it's just like this weird, it's almost like life plays cruel tricks on us by making it so that, it's like the person who, the mother who would love to have her, her ex involved, he's uninterested, and then when you're interested, then you get blocked. And so there's just like an irony to all of it. But that said, I think regardless, I mean, there are so many circumstances in which it feels like we are on the receiving end of something brutally unfair. Yeah. And as you're talking, when I'm like going like, okay, so what is my story of, feeling kind of victim-y? I would say when I left the religion of my youth, which I actually have talked about quite a bit, that story is not unknown. It was kind of like, so I don't get to think different. Like if I think differently than the religion I was born in, suddenly I don't get to have a relationship with anybody that was important to me. Like none of my family, none of my extended family, none of my friends. Like if I just have decided, yeah, maybe I think have a different worldview. Suddenly I don't get to have a relationship with anyone. I felt pretty victim-y around that. Right? I was like, and it's a very jarring experience to one day be talking to somebody who's a mainstay in your life, and the next day just have them be like, yeah, we do not have a relationship anymore.
Kind of by proxy too. It's like they don't feel that way about you, but they're supposed to feel that way about you. That's the worst part. It's not even a genuine feeling they have towards you.
Right. It's like they have to take a stand for something.
Yeah.
And so they still love you, and they're like, oh, well, if you, and then of course it's like, well, if you would just do what you're supposed to do, Antonia, all of this would be, all this would be over. And it's like, and of course the thing I'm supposed to do is like make my brain be convinced that something that I don't agree with is true. I'm like, how do I do that again? How do I see something that I can't unsee? So, or not see something that I can't unsee now. So there are many opportunities. And of course, both of those stories, these are just like basic human tragedies.
Of course.
It's like there are way worse tragedies. I still think about, when we were in Egypt, that boy that we saw as we were driving by picking things out of a canal with like a bloated dead carcass of a camel on the side, and like picking things out of all of this trash, trying to find food, anything to sell, and then like picking trash for food or whatever. And it's like the amount of human suffering represented on the planet it can be pretty extreme. And they would be the definition of somebody who's in a victim situation, right? Like it's like they're on the receiving end of something they didn't choose. They didn't ask to be born. They didn't ask to be born in those kinds of circumstances or situations. And they just have to fight, to survive and fight to live. Yeah,
there's levels of, I think, victimhood. I think there's severity. I don't think I'm positing that I'm anywhere close to somebody in that that situation.
Well,
but from my perspective, I'm not in that person's perspective. So from my perspective, it's painful for me in my life personally, and I'm sure if you're listening or watching right now, you might cognitively know I don't have it as bad as maybe somebody in a situation like this, but it still feels very real to us personally.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we recorded a podcast on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's pretty easy to run into that model, it's a pyramid model that talks about how there's like 5 primary human needs that once we get that one met, once we lay the track of the base one, we pop up to the next one. And now we're like, it's a new game we're playing. Now we're trying to get that need met. And then once that need is met, we pop up to the next level. And now we're playing a different game. And now it's a different need we're trying to get met. And there's human suffering and tragedy that could be found at all 5 of those levels.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's like, and victim status, right? The first layer of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the first one is survival. Well, that's what I was observing when somebody's in a canal next to a bloated dead carcass of a camel trying to find something that's worth, pilfering, or not pilfering. At that point, it's trash. So it's not pilfering. It's like it's just trying to, scavenge. That's a survival level. And anybody who plays the survival game, and actually humans have been playing the survival game for like a super long time. Like that's basically what we've been doing for the majority of human existence, is just playing a survival game. But once we have the track of survival laid, right? It's like we don't have to think minute to minute, am I going to exist tomorrow? Or am I going to exist at the end of the day? Is my survival assured? Once we get that down, once we have food in our bellies and a roof over our heads or shelter or clothing or whatever from the elements, then we pop up to safety and security. And now safety and security is sustainable survival, right? Like I don't just have a lean-to, I have a home, right? I don't just have...
It's not temporary, it's more permanent than that.
Yeah, exactly. And the game that most of us are playing these days is safety and security. That's the game we're playing. Can I pay my bills? Is my electricity going to be shut off? Right? Like
we call that survival.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's truly safety and security.
It's safety and security, right? Exactly. And it feels like survival, but it's not. Most things feel like survival. That's actually one of the challenges of being a human at this time period. What does E.O. Wilson say, that we have like godlike technology with Paleolithic emotions? Mm-hmm. Our emotions don't know that we're in a time period of like especially in Western culture, our survival at this point, unless we enter war, our survival is pretty much set. Like our safety and security might not be, but our survival is. It's like most of the time you can go find, some place like a shelter to, like we have a lot of safety systems set up in the West for shelters and
to
food
catch most things. Some people still slip through, but yes, there's a lot of that set up in the West.
Well, and if you're living on the streets, there are usually resources available, whether or not you choose to make use of them. And it's getting a little bit more desperate right now, but for the most part, the world that you and I have grown up in, you don't have to live on the streets for the most part, right? Usually drugs are involved. Usually it's a pretty dire situation. But I mean, there is some and no matter how great this culture is, no matter how advanced it is, you're always going to have people who are dealing with survival. But the majority of people in the West are not. Most of them are dealing with safety and security. Once that need is met, you pop up to the next level of Maslow's hierarchy, which is love and belongingness. And now we're talking about relationships. We're talking about community. We're talking about family, right?
Yeah.
And then and there's a lot of, I mean, what your story of victimhood is actually going back to love and belongingness, actually.
Yeah, rejection of human relationships, family rejections, children-parent relationships, ex relationships, things of that. Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes those things can relate back to things like safety and security. Like when I got canceled from my religion, I was working for people in the religion, so suddenly I didn't have a job, right? And so it can feel kind of merged together, but most of the time it's, when you're dealing with love and belongingness, you have your safety and security needs met. And actually that's one of the reasons why like couples fight about money, or they fight the most when money problems are a challenge, is you have to lay the track of safety and security before you can focus on your love and belongingness. And so love and belongingness gets ignored when you're worried about paying your bills.
Yeah.
And that's just because that need is a more base human need than love and belongingness. But once you get love and belongingness handled, right, you have a good relationship, you have a community, you have tribe, right? And then the next one up is self-esteem. And self-esteem is, accomplishment, feeling like you matter, impact, right? Feeling like your life is worth something. And then after self-esteem is self-actualization. And self-actualization is like transcending the current iteration of self and doing personal development and all of that. And there's pain represented at all the levels. Yeah,
I'd be curious, you watching or listening right now, where do you put yourself on Maslow? I think most people probably are, I would assume most people are hovering kind of between love and belongingness and self-actualization or self-esteem. I think that's usually where most average people end up being. Sometimes you might be struggling with, just food security or safe and security in some way, like paycheck to paycheck kind of stuff. Yeah. And that's fair. I think a lot of people right now with the economy changing and uncertainty at this time of this recording, there's a lot of that. Yeah. But where would you place yourself on Maslow currently? Because I don't think Maslow is something you achieve and then stay with. Mm-mm. You get somebody that, like tries to come at you in a back alley somewhere, you drop right into survival, right? You're getting off a subway late at night somewhere in a major city, someone attacks you or tries to mug you. Yeah. You can be all self-actualized as you want, but you're descending right down. You got to survive that moment. So Maslow can be moment to moment. You can kind of have a baseline where you hover most of your life, but then you can have moments where you're dropped down lower places. There have been time periods where I did not have to think about money. Yeah. Like I remember very arrogantly thinking, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years ago, I don't think I'm ever going to have to worry about money ever again. It's like, yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. But there have been time periods. Economies change. Things change. So my dad used to say, I've been poor and I've been rich, and rich is better. And it's true, right? Once you have money, you're in a good space. So I would say most people are between safety and security up until self-esteem. That's usually, those three levels are the majority of people in at least this culture. Yeah. So help me find the narrative of connecting to what I was talking about being victim. Oh, I was going to say there's victim status in all of the hierarchies. Gotcha. Or the hierarchy of needs. Gotcha. Yeah, so I can have a self-esteem victim-y, like, oh, I lost that promotion, or I lost that big business deal, or that big achievement, or I went for that PhD and I didn't actually get it, or whatever. Somebody blocked me. You can have injustice at literally any level of human need. Would you say that's victimhood, is injustice? That's the frame that brings us to victimhood, is feeling righteous about injustice? Well, there's feeling like a victim and there's being a victim. And a person can be a victim without feeling like a victim.
and a person can feel like a victim when they're actually not. So there's a distinction between being a victim and feeling like a victim. And we tend to conflate them. We assume that when we're feeling like a victim, we automatically are in a situation of it. And there's obviously a lot of crossover, but I mean, it's kind of difficult to really pinpoint at the exact moment you enter victim status because like life isn't fair. And there's lots of moments when we're on the receiving end of an unfair assessment.
Yeah.
And we can do it at any level, like you said, or like we said, of the hierarchy of needs. And so we can also project onto somebody else that they aren't a victim when they actually are, because they're at a level of human need that we're not currently tapped into. Like if a person got their promotion robbed from them, right? And they earned it, but they didn't get it because somebody else came in and played fast and loose. And so they're at the self-esteem level. Somebody who's in the safety and security level might go, you're not a victim, right? I'm just trying to pay my bills. How dare you think that you've been victimized? But the truth is that unfair treatment can live at literally any stage.
So the metric in my head, what I'm building a little working model of is true victimhood, not feeling like a victim, but real victimhood removes agency from you. Like that's what it feels like. So like if you're a victim of something, it means that you didn't have agency, you were helpless. You couldn't do anything different. You can't. And so I want to actually, with that in mind, add in the replacement to maybe victimhood to say, if I have agency, I could almost see like, well, I'm not a victim here. I could create agency. I could create something in my world. I could make something. And it makes me think of the model that we've done a podcast on in the past, and we can talk about it here too. The hero, victim, villain model.
The drama triangle?
Drama triangle. Thank you. That's what it's called. So yeah, I see myself. So in that situation, when I wanted to go sit with the Christmas tree on the sidewalk in front of my in-laws' house, feeling all righteous, like I was wronged, and I'm going to show you guys, and I'll accept the victim status. I'll play that role. In fact, I'll play that role so well, I'll go and I'll perform it in front of you.
Right.
Like, that's really what I was buying into.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's the role. You want to put me in the victimhood? Then that means you guys are all the villains and you did this to me. And I'm going to go play the victim here. And then maybe some heroic moment will happen. Maybe someone will take mercy on me. A situation or a person will be the hero of the situation and come set it straight.
Yeah.
Like, finally hold you to account for what you did to me and set it straight, become the hero of the situation.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to play out, but my instinct was if I could just play the victim role big enough, own it large enough, some Superman somewhere. I mean, I don't know why I thought this stupid idiot idea was going to happen, but like I thought if I go ahead and play the role you put me in, magically some hero is going to show up and fix it for me. I really kind of thought like some cosmic like truth will, like even the heroic, like it may not be a person to fix it, but like the hero would be you seeing what you did to me and recognizing how you treated me. Maybe that's the hero I wanted the moment. I don't know, but
you wanted to reflect back the villain status
to them.
Yes, to them.
And maybe I didn't have a hero in mind of what it would be, but I just wanted, if you want me to play this role, I'll play it well.
Yeah, if you're going to make me a victim, I'm going to make you a villain.
And so we know the reframe of this is much more empowering. In fact, people call this a different
Let me expand. A person might not have, I mean, my goodness, when did we do the Drama Triangle podcast? What, like 10 years ago?
Something like that.
So just as a refresher, back to harkening back, you just mentioned the three roles, but basically the concept of the Drama Triangle is that we as humans oversimplify reality all the time by assigning one of those three roles to almost every circumstance and situation. And you mentioned it before, but just as a refresher, it's victim, villain, and hero. And I think even the Drama Triangle has like slightly different terms, but those are the ones that always stick in my mind because they're the easiest. And this is the framework of almost every narrative, fiction, story, high concept. It's like in any situation where something bad happened, there was a villain, like a mustache twirling, finger steepling villain that was the perpetrator, I think is the word that they use, perpetrated some terrible action on another person. And that person was the victim to that, whatever was perpetrated on them, and they couldn't do anything about it. And they're on the receiving end of it. And then in order for it to be righted, you have to have a hero that comes in.
And by the way, none of this is untrue, right? This is like, this plays out in real life. Like, You could look at World War II. Hitler's a villain, victimization of people under him, and then the heroes are the allies coming in to win the war. Like this dynamic seems to play out in reality. Like we can see it. That's probably why we go there so fast.
Right. Well, I mean, it's true if you don't look in things in terms of systems. Because once you start looking at things in terms of systems, it becomes really difficult to be able to accurately diagnose who the victim, villain, and hero are. It really is a construct inside of our head. It's like, it's a storytelling narrative. It's like a narrative device that has become part of how we see reality. Because honestly, the truth is that almost nobody is, I mean, there are some victims out there for sure.
Sure.
But almost nobody is like 100% a victim. And almost nobody is 100% a villain.
Sure.
And almost nobody is 100% a hero. Right.
Of course.
These are just like momentary roles we take. And the challenge isn't so much whether or not it's quote unquote true, because the roles we fill flex and flow depending upon context. The question is this a paradigmatic framework we're seeing reality through? And the reason why it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's quote unquote true. I mean, I guess you could argue that it does matter. I don't think it's true. I think it's arbitrary. But the importance of it, and the reason why it was first put forward as an important psychological device, is that if this is your paradigm for reality, if this is how you see reality, then when you see a victim, the first thing you're doing is you're looking for a villain, right? And you can be a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
There doesn't have to be a villain involved. Right? If it's like an act, quote unquote, act of God, like how insurance companies call it, well, what are you a victim of? But if you see a victim and this is how you understand reality, you don't allow acts of God. You're looking for a villain. You're looking for somebody to be the bad guy in the situation.
I've literally seen this happen in the last few years. Like there was these massive fires in Hawaii and there's this terrible flood in North Carolina, like these natural disasters. And then you go online and people are talking about how somebody actively did this. Somebody manipulated the weather or turned things on and off. And whether that's true or not, it's so interesting that I think maybe 50 years ago, they'd say, well, that just happened.
Yeah.
And shrug and say, not shrug, but I mean, it's terrible tragedies.
Yeah.
but like there's nothing, like there's no blame to be put onto anyone. Things just happen.
It's act of
but
God.
I'm noticing this cycle of applying blame is escalating to almost things that are absurd.
Yeah.
That maybe somebody did pull something. I'm not suggesting one way or the other. I'm just suggesting that we want, as humans, we want to apply this to everything we can at this point.
That's right.
Even when it feels maybe inappropriate.
That's right. And then when something comes in to help or make the situation better, then you're looking for a hero. The challenge is that you can have a complex in all three of those positions. You can have a hero complex, you can have a victim complex, and you can have a villain complex.
Yeah.
And so we tend to assign these roles to ourselves. And the challenge, of course, is that if you have assigned to yourself the victim role, then not only are you looking for a villain to place blame on, whether or not there actually is a villain, you're also looking for a hero to save you.
Yeah.
And if you're a villain, if you have decided what does Jesse Pinkman say in Breaking Bad? I know who I am. I'm the bad guy.
Yeah. If
you have decided that you're the villain, then you give yourself permission to victimize, right? And then you also you don't feel like there's any reason to try to improve or ameliorate things. But I think the most insidious one of all of them is the hero role.
Yeah.
That's the insidious one. Because it seems clear what the challenges are to, turn victim into an identity, right? Anybody who's like turned victim into an identity, basically they've just decided that they don't want to have any agency in their life, right? No, you can be a victim without it. Like I said, you can be a victim without feeling like one.
Without being your identity.
That's right. You can be a victim without it having to be your identity. Like, I mean, most of us have been victimized in some way, right? Because life is unfair. Now, there are people who have been victimized more than others. And so it's not an even, it's like not everybody has been victimized to the same extent. But you can have experienced being on the receiving end of injustice and even horrific injustice without it being your identity. And in fact, that's what most therapy is for. Most therapy is so that a person doesn't take on the identity of it, because if you do, you start to create more situations where you'll be victimized. Because like Robert Anton Wilson says, if you're looking for quarters, you're going to find them.
We
right?
want to be congruent with our identities. We put ourselves in circumstances that reflect back to us the identity that we carry through life.
That's right.
And
exactly.
so we're going to like unconsciously choose things that are going to reflect back this identity.
Yeah.
So it's very dangerous to set your identity something
that's right.
maybe you don't want, because you're going to get more of it then.
That's right. Now, a person will be like, well, you're just victim blaming. And I think there's a distinction here between victim blaming and seeing that somebody has taken on the identity of victimhood and is perpetuating the circumstances over and over. Right? Those are two different things. Victim blaming is when somebody was victimized and somehow in your brain you thought they had it coming, right? Or they deserved it somehow, or they invited it. Now, this is treacherous ground because in an attempt to not victim blame, we have also made it so that if anything bad happens to you and an injustice happens to you, we say that person has absolutely zero influence in the situation, which is not accurate either, right? Like, it's like, I mean, my dearest friend, my absolute best friend, whose death I still mourn to today, right? She died 15 years ago, and she was a victim to circumstances, but she also took an action. She and her husband took an action that caused their death. And while I would never blame her, like, she didn't want to die, right? She and her husband, they were on their 15th year anniversary. It was in October. They were on the Oregon coast, which is known to be in the winter and late fall to be very tumultuous, stormy. There was this really long jetty that they walked out, even though people were basically yelling at them, telling them that the weather was not conducive. It was maybe an eighth of a mile out into the ocean. There was this pole out there, and as the winter or this late fall waves, right, the stormy waves were sort of crashing down on them. I don't know why they kept walking out there. I mean, I think both of them were repressed. And Enneagram instinct language, which is terrible. But when they got out there, she couldn't hold on to the pole as the waves were crashing. She got swept out into the ocean, and he jumped in after her to save her. Her body was washed on shore, and his was never found. I mean, it was like a horrific situation. Horrific. Yeah. People watched it happen from the beach. It was terrible.
Can't do anything either.
Can't do anything. People were yelling at them. They just couldn't hold on. I mean, it was really awful. I would never say that they wanted to die. I would never blame them for it, but they took actions that led to their own death, right? And I can't say that didn't happen, right? If somebody said they were being really stupid for doing that, I can't argue. It was a move of stupidity. And yet, that doesn't mean that they weren't amazing human beings, incredible people, did not deserve to die.
Well, the question is, were they victims?
They were, right. They were victims to circumstance, I think. They were victims to their own inability to understand the context. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if you were to victim blame them, how would that look?
Well, they're stupid, and so they deserve to die.
So
it's like Darwin Award or something.
The deservingness part. So it's not just because you just said they were kind of stupid for going out there. Mm-hmm. So then where does the actual blame enter?
They weren't stupid people. That was an act of stupidity.
Okay, so that's blaming their action, not who they are.
Right. Or I don't think they deserve to die, but I think they put themselves in a situation that certainly, it led to it. And do I think that it could have easily not? Do you know what I mean? It's had it been a little less stormy, had she had maybe it wasn't, the waves weren't that bad. I don't know. I wasn't there, but it's
I think that's a little easier, but I think when it happens from a human to human, that's when people have a little harder time. I think most people would think that's reasonable what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's also
that it's you can be honest about the actions they took.
Yeah.
Because the ocean is unpredictable, bigger than us.
Correct.
And it's not a person with a will or intent.
Yeah.
But let's say there's an interaction between humans, mm-hmm. and this person that was the villain in the situation,
right,
quote unquote, the perpetrator. Mm-hmm. Did an action, mm-hmm. and it's the person didn't necessarily, I guess, they got attacked in that space in town. So
right.
I guess you could say they were in that space in town. Like they chose to be there at that time and location to get attacked.
Yeah.
But, and it's, you know, I guess you could say if you weren't there, it wouldn't have happened, but it's not really their fault. They were attacked in that situation. It was another human that took action, for example.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so when a person perpetrates an action onto another person, another individual, did the individual on the receiving end, quote unquote, have it coming? Well, probably not, right? Like, and I say probably in the sense of like, well, did they, you know, is this an escalation from two people at, you know, at each other's throats over time? And then you discover that, right? It's like, well, he did this to me. Well, he did this to me. Well, he did this to me. And then it like escalates to this like really terrible act or whatever. Like, unless it's like an escalation of two people doing things to each other, like an active perpetration on each other. If a person is just minding their own business and something terrible happens to them, obviously they didn't ask for it. But there are also situations, and I think I use my friend's situation because it is a little bit more on the neutral side, right? It's a little bit more act of God.
Sure.
And so it makes it a little easier to talk about without somebody immediately taking sides.
Yeah.
But when it comes to somebody perpetrating violence or a terrible, you know, thing on another person, it's like, it's really easy to take sides. And immediately go like, well, they shouldn't have been there, or they shouldn't have been wearing that, or they shouldn't have been doing this thing, or whatever. Now, the more innocent somebody is, the less expectations we have for the person. Like if my friend had been a little kid, right?
You'd have like less judgment maybe on the decision to go out there.
That's right. Exactly.
Because they don't know any better.
Right. So if we have really low expectations for the person's ability to like protect themselves, then that's, we say that person's totally a victim.
So could we say that's like, I mean, with this idea of victim, I just want to make sure I understand maybe what you're positing and kind of offer kind of how I see it. It's almost paradoxical in a way, in that you could never say somebody asked for victimization, but if you don't account for any level of not responsibility to it, but like level of something there.
Yeah, like we move through our own world. Yeah.
It means that I guess you remove the person's agency.
Yeah, you're abdicating all responsibility.
And it seems like, okay, now you're going to be a sitting duck.
Right.
Which just perpetuates this dynamic.
That's right.
What you're trying to enter here is this idea of is adding an agency at this level. In order to add agency for somebody at this level, you don't want victim blaming, but you have to have, I don't know, calibration, maybe not criticism, but calibration toward both sides of the equation.
Right.
Because you can't have an equation without two sides.
Right.
In a way, that's what you're saying. So it's like a paradox. Yes, this person didn't deserve it. It wasn't good. It shouldn't have happened.
Right.
And what parts, like knowingly or unknowingly, did they play into it, right? Maybe just being unaware in that part of town. Like,
that's right.
Maybe be more vigilant next time. It's not your fault.
Correct.
But had you been more vigilant, you might have had more agency in the situation.
Right.
Well, that's what you're saying.
And I'm saying, and actually, I think going back to the point of origin of this, like the direction we're headed right now, or the thing we're talking about right now, is if we have the identity of victim, we're actually less likely to be vigilant.
Or to feel like we have agency.
Or to feel like we have agency. Like, or not even vigilant, but like, I think vigilant's the wrong word, but we're less likely, to have agency because we see ourselves on the receiving end of life. So that's why it's so important to create a distinction between the status and the identity. So in the drama triangle, we're not really, the paradigm is so important to point out, not just because it's like, is that actually how reality works? It's actually more pointing out roles we take on. It's talking about how we see ourselves. Do I see myself as a victim? If I do, then I'm probably robbing myself of agency in a lot of situations where I could have more agency, right? I'm kind of going like, well, it's not my job to be vigilant, or it's not my job to, if I'm a victim, if that's my identity, well, then what is my job? My job is to wait for a hero, kind of like you at Christmas. Right? You were like, I'm going to stand there. I'm going to point out to these people who are villains. And it's my job to wait. And you go, and I don't even know what I thought was going to come save me.
For some reason, I thought it was going to help the situation or somehow add in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to play out this drama triangle and I was going to wait for my hero.
Yeah.
And that's the role of victim that's why it's so insidious.
I felt so helpless. I felt like I think the feeling was I just need to amp up the helplessness as big as I can make it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, I just larger than life helplessness.
Telegraph it as loudly as possible so that a hero signal can pick it up.
Yeah, telegraph my helplessness, telegraph my distress, telegraph how wronged I was and how much injustice this was performatively. They'll see it. Maybe something will alter. They'll then have to almost take on, I think unconsciously, I was thinking if I amp it up to 10, then they have to take on amped up to 10 to be the villain in that too. Right. Like, they'll be like, get off the sidewalk. You'd be more mad and escalated or something. Again, I don't know my unconscious mind what was trying to do there. Well,
and I think that's why the drama triangle is so important to self-reflect on, is how many times have we placed ourselves in that role, and I quote unquote don't even know what I was waiting for. I just know that I was waiting for something.
Yeah.
And what you're waiting for is a hero to come save you. So if you take on the role of victim, your job is to be victimized and wait for a hero to save you.
I would say that if you did do this. We were on the phone that day. You talked me out of doing this idea. You're like, that's not going to work the way you think it's going to work. I'm like, really? This makes so much sense to me right now, because I'm in my emotions. I'm all upset. And I've been blocked so much. Just the frustration's been mounting. So I'm just this moment.
Yeah.
Of just so much frustration and just wanting something to happen.
Yeah.
And I can remember a little bit, sort of like wanting to stay there. Like, weirdly enough, almost not wanting a solution. Weirdly enough, like, I almost didn't want, like, I wanted a solution, but I really kind of didn't. It gave me this weird sense of power.
Yep.
I mean, if I tune into it,
yeah,
it was almost like I had more power being the victim than if I actually took agency and calmed down or something.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I wanted to harbor it and hold on to it and not let that go.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that also happens with us when we feel victimized or we feel like we're the victim. We have that identity.
Yeah.
I guess I was identifying with it. I didn't want to let that part of me go. I was like, this is like the role.
Yeah.
Like the archetype I'm playing out right now. And I wanted I don't know, it felt like it gave me some sense of power or something.
Yeah, well, it does. Actually, the role of victim actually is very powerful. It's more powerful than we let on. And so it's hard to let it go sometimes. And each of those roles in the drama triangle do.
It also let me off of responsibility too, somehow. That's what I'm realizing is like, because I'm like, why wouldn't I want agency? Why wouldn't I want to step? I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's what I was on the hunt for. Why wouldn't I want agency? I'm like, well, then I have to be like, it's really nuanced. If I'm honest with myself, like at the time, I think I was actually kind of using it as a way to avoid certain responsibilities. Even though I was like showing up, trying to be there for my boys and stuff. But if I really examine my heart and I like look at myself, really what's going on, there's some attempt to escape accountability, responsibility. Like, it's a way that I'm off the hook.
Yeah.
And the more I amp up the victimhood, the more I get off the hook, the more I don't have to be agentic over my life.
Yes.
Or over the situation.
Yes.
And that is insidious, man. Because you get addicted to that and how that gets you out of things. Holy crap. I could see myself really going down that road and being an awful person. Like, just, oh man, like that would be really tough.
It's so delicate. It's such a delicate balance here I think it's hard to have an intelligent conversation around victimhood. Because you don't want to blame people who have been victimized. You don't want to victim blame. But you also, there is when a person, I like you said, identifies with it, as opposed to acknowledging it happened. I mean, some people go the opposite direction. Terrible things have happened to them, and they will not acknowledge that they've been victimized. They just won't do it, right? And it's because they don't want to see themselves in that role. And so then they have all this unprocessed material and unprocessed trauma because they just absolutely refuse to see themselves as ever having been able to be victimized. That's a person who, weirdly enough, blames victims, right? If a person will not acknowledge that they've ever been victimized, they're actually victim blaming, right? Because they're saying, I would never be on the receiving end of that. And assuming that, or not assuming, but like in some weird way, they think that that makes them less powerful, less intelligent, less capable, less competent. And so they're going to project all of that onto somebody who has been victimized. Now they might say, oh, I would never say that. I would never think that. But the truth is that if you think that a person who's been victimized, if you cannot acknowledge that you ever have because you think it puts you lower, then that's what you think being a victim it does, is it's on some level your fault, right? Yeah. And it's like, well, it isn't necessarily, because there's the state of having been victimized, and then there's the identity. And those are two totally different things. And there are lots of people, especially right now, where we are attuned culturally to victims. We are attuned to them to some extent with good reason, right? With good reason, because we've ignored suffering for a really long time as humans. And so when we attune to suffering, we attune to people who have been victimized. So it's it's like there's value in attuning to it.
Yeah.
But because as humans, we always the pendulum always swings from here all the way over to the other side. Now at this point, and I think it might be going a little bit the other direction, but there was a time period there over the last decade where being a victim was basically like it was like a higher class status in some ways. And that's dangerous as well, because now people are going to claim the status. And in order to claim the status, you're claiming the identity in order to have that status. And now you're identifying as a victim. And like you said, it lets you off the hook. You don't have to take as much responsibility. And the reason why is because when somebody's legit been victimized, they probably have some trauma that they have to heal from. And you can't have as high of expectations for them. They have to get through that, right? Like, it's kind of like, what do you expect somebody who's broken their femur to do?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're not going to be like, no, you have to go run the 4-minute mile. Like, you're going to be like, okay, just calm, it's cool. We're going to acknowledge, we're going to acknowledge that you have some limitations now. So if a person claims victim identity to claim that status for the lessened expectations, then, it's like, and if it's a protected class of people and all you have to do is claim the identity, right? Now you have reward for the identity of victim, right? And it's like, well, there's the state and then there's the identity, and the state is different. The situation is different than it being like how I'm putting myself forth as a person.
Yeah.
And so it gets kind of dangerous, actually.
Well, and I also remember kind of feeling like, again, I'm really trying to tune into my unconscious of where I was at the time and kind of what, basically my motivations, like what was motivating me. If I can track in my introverted feeling or authenticity, I'm trying to be really honest and like vulnerable about what they were. And I also know that it gave me a great story to take back to my family and the people in my life to get their like support.
Yeah.
Because I could amp it up, and then it felt like I had people on my side.
Yeah.
And so I could build coalition with it as well. It almost is like a rallying cry or a gathering for my tribe or my friends or family too, which I think is, again, I think the incentives are aligned here to not necessarily encourage us to take agency.
Yeah.
Because there's so much value and benefit from staying in that role and kind of playing that part well and performing it out even more than you feel to perform it out.
Yeah, there certainly can be.
Like, I think there's a lot of benefit from it that our culture will reward, or people will reward in our lives. And so I think that, and we'll have self-reward, we let ourselves on the hook. There just does so much. So I think there's a reason why this tends to be something we tend to fall into. And then I think we also are just, people are genuinely brushing up against each other a lot. Like we are having bad things happen. And so I'm not saying that we don't have, I feel like mine was very real. I felt very real at the time. Now I've done a lot of work to transcend it and to work through it. I still have a little bit of bad feelings about my boys, but I don't think I actually I could never imagine myself wanting to go with a Christmas tree and do that now. Like, I'd be like, that's just silly. That would be, but at the time that seemed really reasonable. Well, thank God I didn't do it. I think it'd be embarrassing and humiliating to like think back that I actually did something like that.
You were legitimately being blocked. Out of malice, or not malice. I guess malice is, I think it was definitely punitive. right? There's like a punitive nature to it. Like somebody's trying to teach you a lesson. And so I would say that you legitimately were being victimized in that situation. But there's, again, the difference between the situation, circumstances, and the state versus the identity. And it's when we get into the identity, it's a challenge or a problem. And of course, the reason why is because when somebody, it's like when we have lower expectations for a person, when we don't expect as much from them because they're dealing with having been victimized, the reality is that everybody else has to subsidize what they would normally be contributing while they're healing from that victimization, right? It's like if one of us broke our leg, like the other person would have to do more heavy lift because, we rely on each other all the time. If one of us is taken out physically, then the other person has to do more in behalf of this unit that we've come to rely on each other for.
Yeah.
And so whether it's psychological, emotional, physical, spiritual, or whatever it is, but if a person is in a truly victimized status, then other people have to subsidize them while they're healing. And that's as it should be, right? If a person is healing from a trauma, other people have to do more heavy lift around them. And that's why that's the point of having each other's back. That's why we have community, tribe, family to begin with, is so that if one person is in an unhealed state or in a traumatized state, everybody else can kind of support them.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to be able to acknowledge that victimhood exists at all, because we want to lessen the load of somebody who now has to heal from whatever happened to them. But to your point, if a person claims that status or identity when actually they're not, it's bad faith, then what they're doing, like you said, is like in that moment, you kind of wanted to amplify it a little bit because you didn't want to have to be responsible.
Yeah.
Well, now you take the identity and now everybody else is subsidizing you. But if you take on the identity for that purpose, now you're just kind of saying everybody has to subsidize my existence all the time, like until I decide differently. And if we're in a time period or a culture where we never question a person's statement that they're a victim, then now we have a lot of people who want to be subsidized. There's a percentage of the population that they'll go for low-hanging fruit every time. And so they'll take victim status, whether or not it's accurate, and they'll go, everybody has to subsidize me. And they won't just take the lowered expectation while they're healing. They'll never get to healing because why would they, right? The whole point is to stay in that place where everybody else is now doing a heavy lift in your behalf. That's the point. And so it's really tricky. It's actually really tricky. And you don't want to go like, well, you're not actually a victim. Well, what do you do? Why are you saying that? Why are you so cold-hearted? Or like you're victim blaming or whatever. And it gets really messy. So in the whole conversation, you have to have a bunch of good faith actors. You have to have people who are radically honest. You have to have them have positive intent and good intent for themselves and for others. You have to have people who are not too suspicious or like, oh, you're fine. You'll walk on that broken femur. You can do heavy lifting. Yeah. You don't want that. But you also don't want a person who's like, ow, my leg hurts when it really doesn't. Or it kind of does a little bit, but they can push through. But now they're getting everybody to do their heavy lifting for them. It's like, it's like there's you called it a paradox, but it's also kind of it's a sticky thing to navigate through.
Yeah.
And so the point of all of that though, and actually I think we could do a whole series on this. We're talking about the drama triangle. We've primarily focused on victim. I mean, we could do a whole episode on villain and we could do a whole episode on hero, actually.
I think so.
And the complexes that come with them. So maybe we should.
Well, and I like the idea that this idea of complexes is very Jungian. Mm-hmm. And these are almost archetypes running in a way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're roles, but we could call them archetypes.
Yeah.
I have kind of all three of them running inside of me. I've got a hero archetype, I've got a villain archetype, and I've got a victim archetype. Yep. And they show up in all sorts of different combinations.
Yep.
And again, we've isolated the victim here.
Well, and I was going to say, I mean, unless you're heading this way,
continue.
I was going to say the antidote to the drama triangle was something that was presented about 10 or 15 years ago. I want to say 15 years ago. And it was presented as what's called the empowerment dynamic, where you keep the triad of roles, but you fill the roles in with different archetypes. And while I don't think that's exactly accurate either as a systems thinker, I think it's a much healthier way to approach things. So in the place of victim is the creator role. In the place of villain is the challenger role, and in the place of the hero is the coach role. So these are more empowered positions. So as opposed to a victim, which is on the receiving end of an injustice or something that life threw at them and they didn't have agency to do anything about it at the time of the victimization, instead of taking on the role of victim, right? Again, there's a difference between the situation happening versus the identity.
Sure.
The best way to get somebody out of victim identity is to take on the identity of creator. Creator is the opposite of being on the receiving end of life. They're actually the person who creates life. They create the circumstances. They're a creator. Yeah. So as opposed to entering the world going like, oh, things are bad, things are going to happen to me and it's inevitable and I need to roll over and wait for somebody to save me. It's actually, no, I create my reality, right? I go out into the world and I make things happen.
I like that. I could maybe flex, because one challenge with that, and I can imagine somebody's listening right now going, well, that means that the bad things that happened to me, I created them then. And I don't know if I necessarily believe that. So you could maybe swap, if that's a hard word, creator, because that's what it brings up for you. I would say you could use agent. Mm-hmm. I have agency.
Yeah.
I'm an agent in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I can create agency. I'm agentic.
Yeah.
Because I think that word agency really is a key here. I mean, I think the whole thing helps give you agency, but like the whole reframe.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that, you know, somebody's like, really? I created that bad thing that happened to me? Like, I think that's hard for people to swallow. I believe that myself. Like, I believe I create almost all of my reality, if not all of it. I'm a weird thinker like that, but even the bad stuff, somehow I believe I brought it to myself. And that's personal. I don't think other people should believe that, because I know I've gotten a lot of pushback when I state that as my worldview.
Yeah.
But it's really helped me understand that, because then I feel like, okay, if this happens, somehow I have gotten my life to this moment. It was really bad. I didn't like it, but somehow I've got to bear some responsibility to this moment I'm in. And that's kind of where I've reframed my own life. Yeah. And I feel like that allows me to see agency there.
Yeah, I think that a person shouldn't, again, it's a situation versus a role.
Yeah.
And so if the role is creator, I think it's specifically designed to help somebody get out of the role or identity of victim. Yes. I don't think it's final form. I think taking on the role of creator isn't necessarily final form.
It's one step to the right.
Correct.
You just move over one step.
Yeah. Or I would even say, I think it's a better way of looking at things.
Sure.
I would say it's hierarchical. I would say it's a superior way of looking at things other than victim. But I don't think the final form is like, I think agent is a great word.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I have agency, but sometimes it's taken and sometimes it's not. And, swapping out roles is what we do when we understand that we're not just one thing.
And then you've got this challenger instead of a villain, challenging a situation.
Yeah.
And again, that's hard to see somebody that's got a knife in a back alley coming at you is, oh, this is my challenger, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you could zoom out far enough and take a meta perspective and remove all human emotion and all the story and narrative, I guess you could sort of see it that way. This is really asking us to remove a lot of the narrative of that, to go, okay, I could see a guy running out with a knife as challenging my ability to dodge that knife or get out of the way, I guess.
Yeah. Well, most of the time, the situations we're in are not quite that survival level.
Sure.
Most of the time, it's like that asshole who did that.
He cut me off in traffic.
Yeah.
That piece of garbage.
Right. Yeah. Or like...
that's challenging. Like so it's challenging you to feel through the experience.
Was your ex-wife and her family, were they villains or were they challengers?
No, I think they were challengers. They challenged me to learn how to find agency, to create a better world for myself, to find, it took a long time for me to find all these things.
Yeah.
And I found coaches along the way. Honestly, I found my, not heroes, but people that were like, really? Have you thought about seeing that a different way?
And maybe that's the third one.
Reframe that, buddy. Like, that's not a real help. You were a coach in that moment for me.
Right.
I'm on the phone with you and you're like, I wouldn't don't do the Christmas tree thing on the sidewalk. That's a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so that final one is here, instead of a hero that comes and saves the day, it's a coach. And that actually allows the creator to have more agency. Yeah. If they're waiting for a hero to come save them, well, the hero may or may not show up, and then you're up a creek.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for coaches, and a coach could just be a situation that teaches you something more, right? And the same thing with a challenge, a challenger. It's like a lot of times again, when we're looking for a villain, the truth is it was just circumstantial. It was a challenging situation, and nobody was really the villain in that situation. And so, so I think it's the empowerment dynamic is an inverse of the drama triangle. I don't think it's necessarily final form, but I think it's a much healthier way of looking at things if you find yourself trapped in the identities of the drama triangle.
And I don't know if this is a good idea to go here. So if it's not, we can edit it out. But the last time we talked about this, someone gave us a little bit of pushback in that they didn't, their worldview was like, you're talking about this only at an individual level. That's not where any of this plays out. They were basically kind of gave feedback like people are systemically victims and systemically oppressing other people. This is all happening at like a societal systemic level. You can't just reframe this. You have to fix it in society. Like victims are real. They're outputted by the way we've set society up. And there's nothing we can do about that. Like until we shift the systems at play. Yeah. Like maybe somebody from a certain race or a gender, whatever it is. Yeah. Positionally, they've been marginalized, cut off, cordoned off, and maybe an entire people group or an entire certain personhood or these kinds of things. People are like, well, that's systemic. There's nothing a person can necessarily do that. Like the system's too big. The system is almost the victimizer in a way. Yeah. And people are behind it. So I think that dirties it really fast. It makes it really difficult to find a pathway of agency, because then it's like, well, who am I to fix a system that big? If it's the system, like, wow, that's so big. That means I have to sit here in victimhood without agency until I guess something fixes on a bigger scale. Yeah. It feels like it really removes any agency from me. Yeah. But I feel like that's almost by design. Like it almost feels like that's a way to like make sure that we never get out of victimhood. Like pin us there and keep us there forever. Yeah. With that line of thinking. Like it doesn't feel empowering at all. Or helpful. I know what it is, but it just doesn't feel helpful.
I mean, I think the word paradox is a really good one that you chose earlier. When we enter conversations around things having, like being whole systems. Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, I'm, like one could argue that as a woman, I'm on the receiving end of, some injustice, right? Sure. And I think traditionally women absolutely have been. There's like not even a question in my mind that women have absolutely been on the receiving end. And that's what happens when you're smaller, right? It's like people who are up to no good, who are physically larger, are going to do bad things to you.
We call you shorty for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're physically less, less strong. And so you're going to be on the receiving end of people who will take advantage of that. And so, so I think that there's no question in my mind that traditionally that has been the case. Now, as a woman, though, I don't live, I'm not a representation of womanhood. I'm a person. I'm an individual. I'm Antonia that is like navigating my own experience in my own life. And so while I can enter abstraction land, and of course, all of this is, these are models and maps and abstraction. So I can recognize that there might sound like a little hypocrisy here, but I can enter abstraction land and say the system is against me. But I navigate my life as an individual in individual circumstances and situations. And some of those situations and circumstances are hostile to me and some of them are friendly to me. Now, have I ever experienced sexism? Well, yeah, I grew up in a sexist religion. Like I've experienced it on a kind of maybe a profound level, actually.
To the point where you kind of are surprised out here outside of it.
Yeah, when I left my religion, I was shocked at how little sexism I was running into outside of the religion, because the religion was like the very definition of a patriarchy, right? Like the absolute like poster child of it. Sure. And so like and in patriarchy, like in kind of a ridiculous fashion, right? To a ridiculous extent. And so
like 12-year-old boys have more rights
than seasoned 70-year-old women.
Yeah, it's just absurd. Like, just absurd. Like they not rights, but like they get more privileges, they get more like way deference and things.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
it's just
a 14-year-old boy would get more deference in certain ways than a seasoned 70-year-old woman. Yeah. Right. And it was just kind of it was sort of ridiculous. But the reason why I say that is I've been in situations that were from all the way from hostile to just misogynistic to neutral to friendly to, supportive, right?
Yeah.
I've run the gamut of it all. And while I can see myself as part of a demographic and navigating in a demographic in each of those levels, the truth is I'm just a personing. And so on some level, like while I can continually punt the ball over into abstract land and put myself as part of a demographic, I don't live in a demographic. I live as an individual. And so I have to see the world in ways that are the most empowering to me as an individual, regardless of the society or system around me. And once I do that, once I adopt models and frameworks that help me feel as empowered as possible, I actually find those circumstances and situations of hostile or, just not even contempt, but kind of like, what is the word? Patronizing or whatever. like all of those circumstances and situations, maybe I'm just better at navigating them. Maybe they don't bother me as much. Maybe I just find ways that they're not as relevant to me. I just don't stay in those circumstances or situations. And I also don't think that I'm trapped in them. That's the other thing, is maybe my life has made it so that I'm less trapped in those moments because I don't see myself as a victim to them. I don't feel like I have to experience them. My identity is not one that's inevitable. I see that as optional. Now, there are time periods in history where there was no optionality. If you're talking about situations like actual slavery, the optionality for I'm just going to feel more empowered, right?
That's not there.
That's just not there. But that's not the context that I live in.
And that is definitely systemic. And that had to be corrected at systemic level.
Absolutely.
You can't have a personal growth message coming through there to fix that.
And it still exists in many parts of the world. So slavery has gone nowhere. Okay.
That's right.
I mean, I think when we were in the Middle East,
form. Yeah.
I observed people. I was like, oh shit, that person's a slave. Like I could tell, right? I could tell that person was a slave to that family. And there's I didn't realize it until retrospect. I was like, I think I just observed slavery. Right. It was a girl who was helping a family push all of their luggage around, and the way they were treating her, I was like, I'm pretty sure I just observed slavery. Now, I didn't know. It was so foreign to me that I didn't recognize it until retrospect. But even then I was like, what could I have possibly done? Right. There's nothing I could have done. So I know it's alive and well still. But I think when we in free lands like the United States or Europe, like Western cultures, when we put ourselves as if we are still in those circumstances and situations when actually we've made an extraordinary amount of progress and headway, I think that's us taking on the role, right? Not being able to see outside of it. And while we're not perfect, right? There's still lots of things that need to be done. The reality for me as an individual is that I can navigate this world with way more freedom than I could if I placed myself in a role that expected victimhood on me. So I'm not ignoring or neglecting the idea that there's still systemic issues, but I also recognize that there's going to be for eternity. I don't actually see that going anywhere. I see improvements, but I don't see perfection. And for me, I navigate the world as an individual. So I get to decide whether or not I'm a victim. And if a person goes, no, you're a woman, so you're still a victim because of blah, 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 I actually am going to reject that. Because they don't get to decide who I am. They don't get to decide what role I take on or what identity I take on. If I want to take on the role or identity of creator, regardless of my circumstances or situation, I'm going to do that because that gives me the best shot of navigating my world. So we're personal development. We're not social development.
I agree.
Right? We're personal agency. We're the whole point of our podcast and our mission and our message is personal growth.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because I want to make sure we're clear that we're not trying to address social issues or systemic issues. I guess that's why I kind of was here. This is not necessarily, you couldn't take this conversation and go, oh, okay, well, that's how I should think about this subject matter.
That's a different conversation. And there's lots of podcasts and people talking about those kinds of things. Yeah. And they should be. And I'm not saying that those things are not important to address, but that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm going, how do I become the most Antonia in a single lifetime? And a piece of me being the most Antonia in a single lifetime is to not synthetically take on the role of victim when I don't really need to.
Yeah. I agree, and I think we could probably wrap up here.
Yeah,
I think this feels pretty good to land the plane.
Yeah,
and I appreciate you letting me kind of go on that little diversion with that, because I think that's going to come up for somebody listening right now.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what about all this stuff? And it's like, we can't address everything in every context in every possible scenario. And so we've isolated more. When we talk about the drama triangle and we talk about the empowerment dynamic, we're usually talking about an individual with human dynamics happening at their individual level. We're not, I kept bringing up extreme issues like getting mugged or attacked in an alley or social issues, or like I kept taking it to the extreme levels or all the devil's advocate places, because that's the first thing that people will think. It's like, well, how can I be a creator if I'm being attacked by somebody? And so I'm trying to negate that and say, that's not really what we're trying to apply this to.
Yeah. And
I guess if you zoom far out, we're talking about humans that, like, somebody cuts you off in traffic, somebody says something, you get kicked out of your in-laws house and you can't, like you get disinvited and now you feel at the mercy of something and you feel helpless.
Somebody tries to take your job, like your role from you at work, not role, but like you get laid off. You get laid off.
Or whatever happens. Like, these things happen in life.
You're married to somebody who's being a bit of a dick right now.
Yeah. So all of this stuff happens to us. And I think that's the moments we're talking about.
Yeah.
The reframe.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're trying to blame anybody that has felt victimized. I think there are true things that people couldn't have helped happen to them. That's not what we're trying to say.
And I'm
just saying all the things we're not trying to say here.
Whenever you have a concept that actually is quite empowering at the end of the day, and somebody goes, yeah, but what about this? What about this? It kind of, it could be that their brain is trying to rationalize it and understand it at a deeper level, but it could also just be that they're also not wanting to accept responsibility. Yeah, because anytime you try to wiggle out of something by giving extreme cases or going like, yeah, but what about things at the largest, most systemic level possible? And it's like, okay, yeah, but also what about just you as a person?
Because then it says it's not my responsibility, it's our responsibility. It's like taking it to the system means that it's not my fault. It's, again, kind of getting off the hook. It's like, it's everybody's fault, right? It's all of our responsibility.
And now we need a hero to save us, right?
Yeah, or a solution at that level.
Right, a heroic solution at the highest level. So it's like, okay, yeah, probably. And also, what about just you as a personing?
So ignoring the social stuff, because that's not what we're talking about.
Not what we're talking about.
Ignoring extreme things like getting attacked or, anything where you're victimized in that scenario.
Yeah.
You get the point, hopefully, if you're listening or watching, what we're talking about here, which is the middle of the road, normal human interactions on a personal level between you and other human people in the world.
Yeah.
We're suggesting that if you find yourself falling into victim, villain, hero model there on any one of those, and you could be on any one of those, the idea is if you reframe to an empowerment dynamic, you see yourself as a creator, a coach, or a challenger in those roles instead. Those are better ordered archetypes to tune into.
I don't think it's final form, but I think it's certainly a better place to be. Creator is a better place to be than
deviation up
when it comes to identity.
Yeah.
Not acknowledgement of wrongdoing that has happened to you, but identity, who you believe that you are.
Yeah.
The role or the archetype of creator is a much more empowered place to be than victim.
Okay. So again, I'd love to hear from you if you've been listening or watching.
Yeah.
If you feel triggered about anything we've said, just understand we're not talking about those other two extremes. We're talking about this middle of the road. So if you're going to bring up either of those topics onto the comments,
you're allowed to, but that's not, okay,
that's not really what we're talking about. So maybe you didn't listen to this far in the podcast. I'll probably just post this timestamp under the comment to say, please come over and share what's going on for you. You can share anything that's coming up for you. We're not going to stop that. But the conversation that I think we do want to curate is this idea here. How are you seeing yourself? Do you find yourself in the drama triangle? Have you found more positive, agetic ways to see yourself, like reframing any of those positions? Maybe you've already worked with the empowerment dynamic. Maybe you've been a listener for years and you heard the original episode. What's your perspective? Come over to personalityhacker.com. You can make a comment under this episode on YouTube. We're also going to be on Substack. There's a lot of places that we can have conversation being built, but I'd love to get this convo going.
And then I think we could probably talk about villain next, actually. I don't know if it'll be as long of an episode, but we could probably talk about the villain position.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting conversation too.
Yeah. All right. Well, my name is Joel Markwitt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
And we'll talk with you on the next Personality Hacker podcast.